If you felt the hate without a single word being spoken, you weren't imagining it.
Let me start by saying this, and let me say it very plainly. You are not imagining what you felt. That hatred you experienced, the sharpness, the coldness, the way the room seemed to change, that, my good friend, was real. See, many survivors struggle to explain it because it didn't always come with words. Sometimes, just sometimes, nothing happened at all. You weren't arguing, you weren't attacking, you were not doing anything wrong. In fact, most of the time, you were doing the opposite. You were helping, you were supporting, you were trying to love them through something. And strangely enough, that's when the hate showed up. And I'm not talking about mild irritation or even annoyance, them feeling annoyed at you. It was pure freaking hate. The kind that you could feel in your body, the kind that made you uneasy, the kind of hate that made you question yourself. And oftentimes you think, why does it feel like I'm being punished for caring? Why does this feel personal? Why does it feel like they're targeting me? And because you are a good person, you tried to make sense of it. You blame stress, you blame trauma, you blame circumstances, and oftentimes, if not most of the time, you blamed yourself. But listen to me very carefully. That reaction was not about your behavior. It was disproportionate because it was defensive, not relational. Narcissist rage often shows up when nothing is wrong because it's not triggered by conflict. It's triggered by threat. And the threat wasn't what you said, it was who you were. If you have ever said, I could feel the air change, I saw it in their eyes, it felt like I was being erased, you are not crazy. You were witnessing a nervous system reacting to exposure. And once you begin to understand that, the story starts to change. Because if the hate wasn't caused by what you did, then the only question left is, what did you represent?
Your empathy wasn't received as love. It was experienced as exposure.
Here is the truth most survivors never hear. Narcissists don't experience empathy as love. They experience it as exposure. Their sense of self is built on illusion, on control, image, and avoidance of shame. So when someone shows up with consistency, emotional depth, accountability, genuine care, it disrupts the structure they survive on. You didn't need to accuse them. You didn't need to confront them. Your very presence, that's what did that. Your steadiness reflected their instability. Your sincerity highlighted their performance. Your empathy showed them what they could not sustain. And instead of integrating that truth, they tried to destroy the source. This is where survivors get confused because you weren't trying to fix them. You weren't trying to change them. You were actually trying to help. But help requires vulnerability. And vulnerability threatens narcissistic identity. So what you offered as love, they experienced as invasion. What you offered as care, they experienced as judgment. What you offered as connection, they experienced as annihilation. This is why the hostility felt so personal, because on an unconscious level, it was. See, you represented truth they couldn't face, authenticity they couldn't maintain, wholeness they couldn't control. So the hate was not random. It was a threat response. Let me say this very, very clearly because it actually frees people. They did not hate you because you were cruel. They didn't hate you because you failed. They hated you because you were real. And once you see that, the trauma bond, that's when the trauma bond begins to loosen.
Love cannot heal someone who experiences truth as a threat.
This is the part survivors struggle with the most because the bond doesn't survive on pain alone. It survives on hope. Hope that if you loved harder, explained better, gave more, waited longer, things would change. But here's the hard truth, and this is spoken with compassion, not cruelty. Love cannot heal someone who experiences love as a threat. See, healing requires self-reflection. Self-reflection requires vulnerability. Vulnerability requires a stable sense of self. Narcissism cannot tolerate that process. So your love actually doesn't soften them. It destabilizes them. Your empathy didn't calm them. It exposed them. And instead of choosing growth, they chose hostility. That's why the cruelty escalated the closer you got. That's why helping made it worse. That's why nothing was ever enough. Not because you were lacking, but because love was never the missing ingredient. The hate you endured was not proof that you failed. It was proof you reached a place they could not follow. And this is where your freedom lives. See, you don't need closure from someone who hated your authenticity. You don't need their understanding. You don't need their apology. Understanding is enough. Because now you can finally say, they didn't hate me because I was unlovable. They hated me because they couldn't live in the truth that I carried. And that realization breaks the bond. Not with bitterness, not with revenge, but with clarity. This is Church of Real Talk, and if this message resonates, it's because you're not weak. It's because you're waking up. Stay powerful. Keep healing, and I do everything that I do. Love you guys.
They didn't hate you because you were unlovable. They hated you because you were real. And that truth is what finally sets you free.